Well, here it is, how the left and other people promoting a change in history rewrites history so it's not accurately correct. No, they always say that it's whitewashed by the white man, yada yada yada, but then they turn around and they'll do something like this. Here, I'll show you. I'm grade 7, and here we go. First off, I'm going to show you just a little bit about Henry Ford. Right here in his career. 1891, he became an engineer with Edison Illuminating Company of Detroit. After his promotion to chief engineer in 1893, he had enough time and money to devote to attention to his experiments on the gasoline engine. These experiments culminated in 1896 with the completion of a self-propelled vehicle which he named the Ford Quadricycle. Tested it on June 4th, 1896. He also attended a meeting with Edison executives where he was introduced to Thomas Edison, who liked his automobile experiment and encouraged Ford to build a second vehicle, completing it in 1898. He then resigned from Edison and founded the Detroit Automobile Company, which produced automobiles of a lower quality and higher price than Ford wanted. The company was not successful. It was kind of dissolved, kind of redone into they kind of reformed it into the Henry Ford Company, with Ford as chief engineer. Another guy, Murphy, brought in another guy. Ford left, and this company would end up becoming the Cadillac Automobile Company. If you know history, you know all this type stuff. Ford then got some investors, got the automobile, got Ford Company, and after a series of test cars starting at Model A, all the way down, we got the Model T, which rolled off the assembly lines in 1908. Now, I give all this because over here on Facebook, I had a friend point out to me she loves history, and she saw this from Real African Books. It goes, read about Frederick Patterson and the Patterson Car Company. And the meme says this former slave was making cars long before Henry Ford. That means this guy, Frederick Patterson, who they are talking about right here, had to be making cars before 1896. Now, I'm going on over here to this one. Now, this is by Hal Africa, The Rise of Africa, where it's got a sensational headline. Henry Ford stole his car concept from a black man named C.R. Patterson. C.R. Patterson is Frederick's father. Now remember, they're saying Frederick was a former slave and made cars long before Henry Ford. This one is saying Henry Ford stole it from Frederick's father, C.R. Patterson. And if you go through the article here, they do talk about, Frederick had a company, C. Rich's Patterson's company. It made some of the finest buggies in the late 1800s. I don't know. I can't say yes or no about that one. I'll go ahead and say that they did make some pretty good ones. It was a black-owned company in Ohio. They later made motor vehicles. And according to the thing, they are the country's only African-American-owned automobile manufacturing company. According to some people, if Patterson had been a white man, he could have transformed Greenville, Ohio into another Detroit. Not buying that one, even if he was white. They give a bit of history on CR. He left slavery just before the Civil War, which means he was a slave. Now think about it. CR, was a slave. He left, brought his blacksmithing skills, and began working with a carriage company. By 1870, he was a foreman. By 1873, he had gone to business with J.P. Lowe, a white carriage maker, because you got to add in race for every little thing with these type things. Lowe died a decade later. This one I find contradicting information. Says Patterson became the sole owner, but I did find some sources say that Patterson bought Lowe out. So either way, Patterson became the sole owner. Had a lot of buggies, stuff like that. No. Today, there aren't many left. And it goes by 1883. Patterson had two sons, Frederick Douglass, which is this guy over here, and Samuel, who would work for what became C.R. Patterson and Son Carriage Company. They became natural mechanics and even built some of their own designs, said Smith. Samuel died in 1889, unfortunately. I didn't find anything on why he died, but sad, no. Fred went on to make his own history, becoming the first person to graduate from the town's high school. Pretty good. And the first black player of Ohio State in 1891. Again, wonderful. Great. Love it. But then he went on to teach history in Louisville, Kentucky, and then rejoined his father in 1897. We've heard nothing about a car. Henry Ford built his first car in 1896. I mean, this has already been disproven just by this former slave. He was never a slave. He was the son of a former slave. And in order to be making cars long before Henry Ford, he'd have had to have made his first one before 1996, which even right here, they're already saying didn't happen. But Fred began to take greater leadership in the company. In 1902, there was one car for every 65,000 people. In 1909, there was one to every 800. Fred could see the buggy was a dying industry. Yeah, that was his industry, and he saw it was dying, and what did he do? After his father died in 1910, he began tinkering with the motor-driven vehicles. He needed to change, as a good entrepreneur will do. I'm going to give him that. No. Good entrepreneurs change with times. They don't stick with everything. And his goal was to build a car that could rival anything produced by the new automotive industry. And goes, there are different reports, but on September 1915, that's 7 years after the Model T rolled off the production, their first car rolled off the line. They didn't make the engine. It was apparently capable of 50 miles an hour, and according to some people, it was superior to the Ford's Model T, which really wasn't that hard. Model T was a very basic, rough, tugged. Now, it was durable. It wasn't the big frills and Cadillac that we know today and the high end. It was built for the average person who didn't make a lot of money. Now they built between 30 and 150 vehicles. None are still surviving. The company changed in 1919 to do work on skins of buses and other type stuff. But again, right here, we're this far. No, right in here, this basically reiterates everything that was just said. And if you take a look, the problem is the headline says Henry Ford stole his car concept from a black man. Nowhere in this article does it say how or why or even anything about that. And then you got this over here where they're claiming this guy was making cars before Henry Ford was. And what gets me, if you really want to go, let's take a look at some of these things right here. Now, so much history that was concealed from Americans. If it's not in a history book, it never happened. History needs to be written truthfully. Good, bad, or ugly. Well, if she really is thinking about that way, then this is not true history. And you get more and more like that. You get a lot of people, they say, no, Ford didn't invent the car, which I don't ever see any. The only people I see actually saying that are groups like this Real African Books group. They're the only ones that say, no, Ford made the car, invented the car. No, he didn't. What he did do was get a car that on an assembly line that was cheap, that people could afford, that was reliable. That's what he did. He took a bunch of other ideas and slapped them together and made it work. Let's hear. Good, let the true come out. It's important for people to realize the genuine greatness of black people. Again, you're being deceived. Some people are sarcastic. He also invented the telephone, TV, airplane. History should include the creator of any invention. No, if we're going to go car invention, then I think that's somebody in France. I can't remember the name of his thing, but no, it wasn't Frederick Patterson or his dad. Neither one of those guys invented the car. More and more, there's so much more of black history that we don't know, or that we know a whole lot more and proud to be coming to the surface. Yeah, the problem is it's not what you're being told. You're actually being lied to. And it just goes on and on with people doing this. No, true, many people were, but Henry Ford was not credited for originating automobiles. No, he wasn't. Most people don't. There's one down here that really I love. Have to find it. There it is. We are giving history, not ours. We need to write our own history and teach it in our schools. No, this actually isn't. But just like Kentucky Fried Chicken, as if any white man knows about seasoning chicken, like the slaves who used herbs, etc. Boy, that's racist. How do you know a white guy doesn't know how to use herbs? I mean, get down off your high horse. Good Lord. This is the one that really, it banged my head on the desk type thing. Mr. Patterson's family should be getting reparations for the past and this day forward from Ford, who have been profiting from Mr. Patterson's invention. What? This meme is giving people like that false information. But yet, another person who wrote a comment on here, and she gave factual evidence that from right here, that the company did it in 1915, and Henry Ford was out in 1908, and her post was flagged as giving false information. That's what Facebook and all these groups are doing. They're rewriting our history to fit a political narrative that's not true. Now, let me know what you think. Is it going too far? No. Did they make a mistake? I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem if they had gone, son of former slave is only African American to ever have owned a car company. I mean, right there, that's something to be proud of. That's a proud moment in history. Don't spin it that it didn't happen. No, don't make it greater than what it was. No, this almost makes it look like he's inventing the car. Yeah. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next video.